Welcome to Culture Alchemy, where we do a deep dive into film, TV, music, and the stories and trends lighting up the group chat. We'll discuss what it means, why it matters, and how it shapes us. I'm Antoinette.
And I'm Andrew. Each week, we've got pop culture's hottest takes, served fresh. We're turning pop culture into pure gold. This is Culture Alchemy.
Hey, Andrew, how's it going?
It's going well. How are you, Antoinette?
I'm all right. And I just want to wish everyone who's listening, our Canadian fans, happy Canada Day, because if you're listening to this right now, we are recording it ahead of Canada Day, and we're going to be speaking to you right now from the past, but obviously you're going to be listening to this in the future. So happy Canada Day, however you celebrated it. And I'm actually excited to see how this one's going to pan out this year, Drew, because it feels a little different to me.
Yeah.
But I'm just curious, like, what are your thoughts on this year's Canada Day? Do you usually celebrate it? Do you do your big ones? Is it kind of a mellow affair for you? Is it feeling different this year?
Yeah, I should be wearing red for Canada Day. But maybe tomorrow. To be honest, I mean, yeah, I'm a proud Canadian, you know. Canada Day hasn't felt like Canada Day in a while for me, to be honest, since probably COVID, like pre-COVID. This year, I am excited because the fireworks have returned to this area of Toronto called at Harbourfront. So I love, one of my fondest memories is going down to Harbourfront and watching the fireworks on the water. I prefer to watch it in that place as opposed to Ashbridges Bay, where it was, you know, where it always is. But I think that's a better spot to do it. And so I'm glad that's back. But I don't know. It seems like Canada Day hasn't felt like Canada Day of the past for the past few years. You know, that also has to do with Indigenous cultures acknowledging Indigenous culture and the history of that in Canada. I think that's kind of dampened Canada Day for the past few years, you know, more. Tomorrow it's supposed to rain, but I'm going to make the most of it, and hopefully I will see some fireworks because I do love fireworks. Yeah.
Yeah, I hear you. I love fireworks myself as well. And I do think that's a good point about Canada Day having different tones depending on who you are. I definitely remember a few years ago. I mean, it's always been one of those days where if you talk to one person, they may really, really celebrate it and go hard. And then others who are like, it means nothing to them. It's another day.
Yeah.
And then still others who, like you mentioned, actually really find it an offensive day.
Yeah.
Just because of, you know, historical.
Yeah.
We are celebrating a day that for some people, especially those who you mentioned from Indigenous cultures, don't even recognize it as a day. Like it feels, it feels wrong sometimes to celebrate it. And I bring it up because I feel like, you know, in addition to the fireworks, obviously I love it as well too.
Yeah.
I do think it's one of those things where I'll be curious to see what happens this year, because all of the things that we just mentioned notwithstanding, I also feel as if this year may be an extra patriotic year because everything that's been happening south of us. We love you, our American, viewers, alchemists. We love you. We love you. And I think a lot of Canadians are abstaining from traveling to the US right now, are on their Made in Canada, tip right now. So this might be one of those years where people might be extra active in wanting to wave the flag. The flag has changed so much. Remember when the truckers were waving the flag and it was something totally different in the early days of pandemic. And now I think there's another wave of patriotism here in Canada where the flag, again, it's kind of cool to wave it again. It's become very much our identity and our bond as Canadians is strengthened by having a common enemy. I hate to say that, but I think that's part of maybe why this year it might hit a little different. Hopefully the rain doesn't doesn't prevent us from doing the fireworks this year, but I do think this year is going to be one of those years where, yeah, there will
Yeah.
probably be a lot of people that'll be celebrating it.
We're definitely celebrating Canada more so than yeah, more so proud to be Canadian for sure. And our LCBOs, where liquor is sold, looks a lot different than previous years as well. It's all Canadian products. All the U.S. products
Yeah.
have been removed, and yeah, it's an interesting time, that's for sure. And maybe that will be, yeah, kind of like more. We'll be more celebrating Canada this year. That's a good point.
Yeah, be interesting to see. But I really appreciate what you're saying as well for those people who don't celebrate it and for whom it was just another day. We see you too, recognize that too. So hopefully you spent it with people and friends who, or both, I guess, could people and friends could be both, with people that you enjoy and had a safe holiday.
And
And
speaking of Americans, the company I work for, most of our clients are American, and
mm,
they go hard for Fourth of July. All right, they definitely celebrate it because I've talked to some Americans last week, and they were like, don't even try to talk to me next week, okay? I'm taking the whole week off, all right? And that's a lot of Americans too. So it's nice to see that pride for the country, and yeah, they definitely go all out for Fourth of July. That's for sure. Yeah.
absolutely, yeah, it's a big one. It's a big one, and I think there's a lot of people that will have different views
That
on
too. Yeah.
how to celebrate it,
Mhm.
but it's definitely one of those holidays that you just can't ignore.
Mhm.
And just to your point, we're in Canada and it still has an impact on us, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think it's definitely going to be one of those holidays that, yeah, in terms of the conversation around it, maybe a little polarizing, but still want to say that I think it is definitely worth celebrating and any chance you can take to take a rest. I think in our hustle culture
I
is
agree.
really welcome. So
Yeah.
I applaud it. I totally get it and took a week off myself. So I'm all about that. But
Yeah.
going from polarizing holidays to polarizing movies, one of the things I've done on my vacation so far is I've gone to see the Celine song movie, The Materialists, which is getting absolutely panned
Really.
in some circles. Yeah, it's such a polarizing film. I have seen so many reviews that have been really lukewarm.
Mm.
Some reviews that have called it to be a movie worthy of really high praise. I
Mhm.
mean, and it's just really been shocking to me to actually see the
Yeah.
responses. Now, you haven't seen it yet, Ranger, have you?
I haven't seen it yet. I wanted to see it. I was thinking about going to see it in the theater. The trailer looked great. I didn't know about these. I didn't know it was getting panned, and it bombed at the box office
Well,
too.
it seems to
Yeah,
be really dividing people. So for my
yeah.
okay, so here's my take on this because I actually enjoyed it. I thought it was a pretty good movie. I walked in knowing that Celine Song has a certain way that she tells stories, so I wasn't expecting it to be a
Mhm.
traditional rom-com. And I think a lot of people walked in maybe thinking it was going to be a traditional rom-com and were really disappointed when they found that it wasn't so much a traditional rom com as so much, in my opinion, a satire, a sort of skewering rom coms. And I have without any spoilers because people may want to see this movie. I think it is pretty straightforward. You've got a woman who is a matchmaker in New York City, played by Dakota Johnson.
Mhm.
She's involved in a love triangle, and I wouldn't even really say it's a love triangle, but she's got two men, one who's rich, played by Pedro Pascal, one who's poor, played by Chris
Yeah.
Evans, and who she can
Who's
choose.
so hot right now? Pedro's
He's
everywhere
so
right
hot
now.
right now.
Yeah.
He's everywhere right now. I really liked him in this movie. I thought he was fantastic, and so I would call him out as one of the standout performances. And I think the other two were just fine. But I think it was
Mhm.
more what Celine Song was suggesting in the conversations that may have really pissed people off, like people that were going into the movie thinking that as a modern woman, the protagonist would make different choices. And when she didn't, I think it was one of those things that um, it may have just rubbed people the wrong way because they were not expecting to see, um, yeah, they were expecting to see Lucy, the main character. They weren't expecting her to really behave the way she behaved towards the end. That's all I can say without spoiling it. Is that I feel this is a movie where Celine Song is not really giving us answers to modern questions around dating and love. She's posing questions. So she leaves you with more questions than answers. And I was okay with that. I think she's also, at the end of the day, maybe her thesis is really about the fact that we've commoditized love and we've made it about, um, really, if it's a game and it's a market, we've made it about stats and numbers. And it's really apparent in how she frames the conversations. It's more of a character study around how these
Hmm.
characters feel about modern dating and love. So it's not the warm and fuzzy sort of rom com that we're used to. It is a lot more
Yeah.
critical maybe of modern dating. And Celine Song was a
Hmm.
matchmaker before she was a director. So that's something that people probably don't know.
Oh, really? Wow, that's
She did. Yeah.
interesting.
She's a Canadian. She's from Markham. And before she got into film, she was actually setting people up on dates. So a lot of what she's talking about in the movie, I think comes from her experiences. But yeah, it's been called by some people a poor man's agenda, although it was obviously written by a woman. It's been heralded by some people for some really refreshing conversations around love and the idea that it's really about stats, age, weight, income. All these things are things that the characters talk about very directly in the movie. And so it doesn't give that warm and fuzzy feeling of a traditional rom com, but I did enjoy it for what it's worth. And I think the ending is one that's maybe questionable. And that's, I think, the one that a lot of people, including a lot of younger women, are rejecting with extreme prejudice. Let's just put it that way. So I think it's going to be interesting to see
Hmm.
overall, when people watch this movie, do they see it as something that challenges stereotypes around modern dating, or does it reinforce stereotypes around dating and around women in particular? Yeah,
Oh, that's interesting. And like, so is it a satire? Is it?
I would call it a satire. I would say that it's a
Yeah.
satire, and yeah, the
Okay.
tone for me feels like a satire. But I think it's going to be one of those things where if you go into it expecting that and you've seen Celine Song's past lives and how she put that together, which is
Okay.
it's a brilliant movie. That's the tone, like that's her jam. So she's not going to give you the rom com of yore. It's like this is a modern rom com, and I do wonder.
Maybe that was the trouble. Was it was just hard. It's hard to market that. You
Yeah,
know, it's maybe from the trailer. Like I was not expecting that. You know, it seemed like it had all the ingredients. You know, for an amazing rom com, almost like Pretty Woman. You know, or something like that. But I guess it's just different than what people expected.
totally.
That's for me. That's part of
Totally.
it.
And that's a great point
Yeah,
about
yeah.
the trailer because when I saw it, I was really interested in based on just the star power alone, the idea like of a tale as old as time, have to choose between two suitors. Yeah, I think though people were definitely expecting something different in general. But I will say that there is something about the movie and the way that it's shot and the tone that's really beautiful. If you're a huge fan of beautiful cinematography. There's some breathtaking scenes. It's like a movie full of moments. Like there are moments that you kind of that stay with you. So I feel like it's a collection of moments more than like a plot driven movie, which is another reason why I think it might not be landing for people. And I don't know, in a world where some would say that people are starved for romance, does the rom com make sense anymore? Does the rom com actually does it actually make sense? Is it realistic to think that movies will be made that way? Or is Celine Song's movie actually more realistic? So maybe if you and our alchemist have a chance to watch this movie, you can revisit your review and feel, and maybe talk about how you feel about it. But
Hmm.
I think that's one of the things that's also maybe getting people twisted is that they're walking in, like you said, with an expectation based on the trailer that it's going to be one thing, and then realizing that it's a whole other thing. And that whole other thing is something that they maybe don't like. It's a little too real. And at the same time, also feels like it betrays the character. Like the character doesn't seem like somebody at the beginning of the film who would have made the choice she made at the end. So there are some things within there that are a little challenging. But as a modern woman, is it is it a fresh take, or is it a reductive sort of rom-com moment? And I think that's the thing that people are sort of debating. Yeah. So whichever side of the fence you land on will determine whether or not maybe you enjoyed this movie. So for what it's worth, I thought it was a good movie. I won't say great movie, but I thought it was a good movie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, I still want to see it. I'm very curious. I'd love me a good rom com, but
Mm.
it's good to know it's not your typical rom com. I think the rom com is still alive. I think it has to be told, and it definitely needs a reboot. I feel like for this era, this generation. I feel like it's hard. It needs some. They have to do something different
Mm.
for a rom com
That may be the case.
to really resonate.
Yeah. That may be the
Yeah,
case, honestly.
yeah.
And, it's funny because as we're talking about all these different hot topics, I want to kind of segue from that one, from the Materialists, and a movie that is making people question whether or not this is a movie for modern women, to a modern woman who is now making people question whether or not her moves are also, pro-feminist or not. So we're going to go from Materialists to Sydney Sweeney,
Mhm.
and she wants to sell you her bathwater. Okay. So, Drew, for those who may not be aware of this story, fill us in what's happening and what are your thoughts on this? Is this a brilliant marketing move, or is this just like capitalism with Botox, or like just a tacky gimmick?
No, I think it's a brilliant marketing move. I think whoever came up with it should get a promotion. Okay, because it went viral. I mean, everybody, a lot of I'm sure our listeners know who Sydney Sweeney is, and just a very popular actor, and typically like almost like America's like American like bombshell type of how she looks, and I do have friends who would definitely drink her bathwater. Okay. And a lot of people out there would, and that was the joke online that Sydney Sweeney is their dream woman, and and she's kind of, and I guess they contacted her about it, about this kind of what people are talking about online, about this topic about who's your ultimate celebrity crush, who would you drink the bathwater for. And Sydney Sweeney, I'm sure, is at the top of the list for a lot of people, and then they just tied that trend into online trend into this campaign, and it went viral, and I think it's genius.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. And she's playing with it. Like she doesn't take herself too seriously, which I like as well, and that's why it works so well too. She's like poking fun of her at it, basically what people are saying. She's laughing with everybody else. I think that's the key to this campaign. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, at first, when I heard about this, I thought gross. And then when I heard about it and I sat with it again, I thought, oh, this bitch is brilliant. Because
It is.
everything you just said, I have to agree with.
It's a viral question, right? Like who's your celebrity crush, and who's the ultimate? Who would you drink the bathwater
Yeah.
for?
Yeah.
And then
Well,
yeah,
you know what? There's nobody, like in my mind, I understand the premise is like the person's really hot. This is somebody like you would do the unthinkable for. So I think what she did
yeah,
made sense because people are already putting her in this box where Her, her body is constantly a subject of conversation, and so I think, like you said, she's in on the joke. I feel there's a lot of tongue in cheek and
Yeah,
empowerment in what she's doing. She's kind of leaning into the culture and she's leaning into her sex appeal. And honestly, she made
exactly.
5,000 bars. They sold out in minutes. So demand was there. And I
Yeah.
think if people are going to, if they're going to honestly, pay for the product, demand's there. It's something she can do that's kind of a fun way to engage her fan base. Why not? And also, I'm of the point of view
Hmm.
too. Like, she kind of has to strike while the iron's hot, and while she still is, able to do this. Like, she has a kind of window to do this, and Hollywood is can be a very fickle beast, and so you don't know what the next season of your life is going to look like. I think why not? I also
Yeah.
really respect how she's handled a lot of the conversation around it. So I was reading her interview in GQ where she talks about her decision to do this, and I don't know. I'm going to assume maybe it's true, but she at least says that she wasn't aware of the erotic implications of doing this until she started seeing the comments around the product. And, honestly, she's just kind of playing into, like you said, her bombshell sort of persona. So I'm all for it. I actually think it's a great idea, and although I can understand why it might be distasteful to some people, or why this sort of like hot girl
The it
entrepreneurship,
girl of the
like,
moment. Yeah.
can
Yeah.
really, for some people, seem like it's regressive, like it's actually setting feminism back. I think in some ways, her taking control and having agency over her image and over her body, I'm kind of here for it.
Hmm.
I can't blame her for that. So, what would be the alternative for her? So, I think that it makes sense.
Yeah, and from an actor, yeah, I agree with that too. And it's a fun campaign, and um, and comedy sells as well in marketing. Like that, that's a great way to reach your audience. Make them
Yep,
laugh, and it's become viral. It's become a viral moment. So that I think that's great. It's all about creating moments, and she's definitely created a moment with this campaign.
definitely.
And she's recently, speaking of rom-coms, she recently, well, last few 2023, she starred in Anyone But You. I thought that was a great rom-com myself. But yeah, I think it's great what she's doing.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah,
And we don't recommend drinking bathwater, by the way. This is a joke, okay? We don't actually recommend drinking someone's bathwater. All right, we don't want to go full Saltburn
right.
on this,
Exactly.
okay?
Exactly. But there's somebody
Yeah.
out there that, if given the opportunity, would have paid good money to actually get in there and drink it up. Like, I think it's this intersection between like fandom, fetish,
Yeah,
and
fancy,
commerce.
exactly.
And
Yeah.
there's definitely people that I think if they were given that opportunity, absolutely would actually do that. So if people are going to pay for that, if that's,
Oh yeah. One of my good friends, he wouldn't think twice about
wow.
it. All right,
Yeah.
he wouldn't think
Okay.
twice
Well, there
about
you
it.
go. See, if there's a market,
He's like, sign me up, sign me up.
listen, she's a beautiful woman. I think she's
Yeah.
doing the best thing that she can do for herself right now. Um, considering that, yeah, the people that she, as you said, that she is catering to with this campaign, like,
Yeah.
they are going to not only engage with her, like you said, in fun, interesting ways, but yeah, if they're going to lust after her, I don't know, she might as well get paid. So I actually think it makes a
I
lot of
agree.
sense. And
Yeah.
she's giving them, like she said, she's giving them what they want. So yeah, we'll see if she does another campaign or what comes from this. But certainly, I think this will be the last that we're going to see of this type of I guess marketing campaign when it comes to young influencers like her. And moving on from Sydney Sweeney's Bathwater to a major announcement uh, around the James Bond franchise. So, Drew, I'm going to pass this over to you. So, tell us what's going on.
Yeah, it's this. I'm very excited about this. So Amazon has the rights now to James Bond, and they're moving forward with a James Bond film. And this has been in the works for a while. And they have a director now, Denis Villeneuve. Yeah, so Blade Runner, right? Dune, amazing director. How do you feel about this choice for the director of the next James Bond?
I think it's a fantastic choice. I think it's a fantastic choice.
Yeah.
So I heard word on the street that they were actually looking at a couple of different people that I also think would be interesting.
Yes.
So, okay, so let's talk about this. So first, before I,
I heard there were some names which I was very excited about. I'm excited about this name too, but I did want this one particular director as my original
okay,
choice. Yeah.
so why
Yeah.
Villeneuve? I'll tell you why I think so. Why I think he's a great choice, and then also if there are any concerns, what those concerns might be. But why do you think Denis was the best choice for this?
I think it was the best choice because of he can handle big screen, big movies like Blade Runner, Dune. Dune, not only a big movie, but movies that feel also indie too at the same time.
Mm,
They're really character driven with Dune, and um, they were amazing movies, Dune series. So he can definitely handle that big scope and also be at the same time. It almost feels like an art house
yeah.
film. It's very character driven and has that indie feel to it too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm. Totally agree. I think he can handle big IP,
yeah,
like you said. He's
yeah.
been killing it with Dune, Blade Runner as well. I guess you could say, again, big IP there. He's got yeah, he's got a sensibility. Obviously, he's I think one of the greatest directors right now, right? Like, so it's hard to
He's a,
argue that he's a
yeah.
bad choice. But if anything, there may have been some people that might have been a little bit concerned because Bond
Mm-hmm.
is kind of like, at least the way I see Bond is there is a seriousness to it, but also a cheekiness to the Bond franchise as well, right?
That's the part which should be missing. That is, you're not wrong.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
wonder about that because he's kind of serious. But I'm sure he's going to kill it. I'm sure that there's going to be no issue there. He's going to really, really find that balance. But I'll be curious to see if it'll be more like a more cerebral, atmospheric, like slower burn than like the kind of slick action that maybe we've seen in the past. And also, I heard that he is not going to have um, the final cut. So he's going to have kind of limited creative control over the actual picture that comes out. That's something that I heard about. And one of the reasons why I heard Chris Nolan said, no thanks, because he's like, I need final cut or I'm not doing it. So I heard they were courting Chris Nolan for a
Wow.
while. And he was kind of like,
I was hoping for Christopher
I
Nolan.
heard that. That's what I heard.
I,
And then I heard
that was my number one
Chris
choice.
Nolan, eh?
Yeah, and
Mm.
yeah. I was hoping it would be Christopher Nolan. But Denis Villeneuve, he's similar in how he approaches film. I feel like it's a similar take
Mm.
than Christopher Nolan because they both can handle those big films and they're very, character driven and amazing performances and the scope of them is massive. The scale,
Yeah.
yeah. So but I am a little now that you brought that up. Because I grew up on the James Bond, like we've talked about before, Pierce Bronson, and those type of films. And I feel like James Bond should be that kind of. There should be those tongue in cheek moments too, and that's what I feel like the Daniel Craig series was missing as well. So I kind of hope that there is still, I hope they bring that back because they are apparently getting a younger James Bond. They're going for a younger, under 30 James Bond. That's what they're looking for. And there's some names they're narrowing down too for the next James Bond too. So I'm excited to see who they end up picking.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
a big debate as well over who's going to play the next Bond. And if they go younger, who are some of the people that you've heard are being tossed out as possibilities?
Yeah, so they're definitely going younger. Some of the possibilities are Jacob Elordi from
Yeah.
Euphoria, where Sydney Sweeney comes from, who I think is a great pick. Also, Harris Dickinson is he was in that baby movie with Nicole Kidman.
Oh,
Call Me
yes.
Baby, was that it?
Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah. So he's a big upcoming actor for sure. Um, Also, Tom Holland is in the mix apparently too as well
That's wild.
in the conversation.
That one,
Yeah,
that's wild. I mean,
that's. I think that's a long shot,
yeah,
but
yeah. I mean, we'll see. I mean, I'll be interested to see
yeah,
how that pairs together with the director and the actor now, because I know that Denis Villeneuve has only been signed on for one. He's not necessarily going to have as much say.
yeah,
So I wonder how much will the studio control who's going to be there, because they've got to look out for their entire franchise versus one director's say. Like, I know there's been a lot of names thrown out in addition to the names you
and
mentioned.
Aaron Pierre is also talked about as
Mm.
well. He's a rising star. He was in what was that movie called? He was just I forget what he's recently been in, but he's an upcoming actor, and I think he'd be a really good choice actually. Um, yeah, so those are the top names apparently in discussion.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
know my pitch for Josh O'Connor is probably not going. It's like very low odds that's going to happen. Um,
that's the dark
it's a dark
horse.
horse for sure.
Okay.
I mean, I can't argue with the other names that have been thrown out there. I just have faith in almost anything Josh Connor does. But then when I thought about it and I'm thinking about the pairing with Denis, I was like, this could be interesting then who would make
Yeah,
sense in this case. So we'll see. But I want to go back to some of the names that were also tossed out for director, because in addition to the actual debate around who should be the next Bond, there were also some other names that I thought were really interesting. Aside from Nolan, obviously, who didn't take it, I heard that they were looking at both Edward Berger, who directed Conclave, and Edward Wright, who
wow,
directed Scott Pilgrim and also directed Ant-Man. So those are the two other people that were in major contention for it. Right?
wow.
Right?
That is interesting. I mean, Conclave, that's wild, right? That would have been an interesting choice. That was an intense movie, though. I think that could have been good too.
Yeah, I think it would have been great.
Um, Edgar Wright, who directed Ant Man most recently. There's three Ant Mans, right? Um, I like the original Ant Man, but the last Ant Man was not my cup of tea.
Mm.
I was disappointed with that one. So I'm kind of glad that. But then at the same time, Edgar Wright is really good with inserting those lighthearted moments into a drama as well. So that I can see why they were looking at him as well. Yeah,
Yeah, I think that might be the most compelling argument for him, is that he does have that
yeah,
levity. And
yeah,
that's why I would say
yeah.
Edward Berger too, because I'm not familiar with his
Oh yeah,
entire like filmography, but his treatment of Conclave is in my
yeah,
mind anyway, because obviously I repped really hard for that movie. I've watched it multiple times. It's
yeah.
actually a little bit disturbing how many times I've watched it, but I found it to be hilarious. So like I found that it was actually very
Okay.
cheeky. Like it had beats that were very funny. So I could see
Hmm.
him handling. He's not going to have the star power, obviously, that Denis Villeneuve's going to have. Like that's 100% of the time you take Denis, right? But if you were to go long shot and just give it to somebody who I think Edward Berg at this point is very, very, I mean, he's held in really high esteem, right? He's an Oscar nominated director. But he's not going to have that star power or that
Hmm.
kind of, he's not going to have that notability that another director who's already known, who can pack an audience will have. So I get why they would go the other way. But yeah, Berger, I think, is really great. I can't wait to see what he does next, because I want to see how much of it was a fluke, how much of it was actually like I want to see his style kind of emerge, and I want to go back and
Yeah,
see some of his older pictures and see that as well. But I think, yeah, he's somebody, he could have probably done a really great job, unexpected, but really great job with it too. Yeah. But debate's going to rage on this topic, and we've seen in the past how heated it can get when you're trying to work with something that is so well known and so beloved. And to your point, I know you said earlier that you
yeah.
grew up with James Bond and really liked it, and I think one of the most compelling things
Mhm.
about the choice of Villeneuve is that he's a huge Bond fan. So
Oh, that's
he
great to
loves James
hear.
Bond. Like
Yeah,
I saw him do an interview where he was basically like fangirling over the choice. Like I could see him just how excited he was. And so I know he's going to do a great job
yeah.
with this just because he has to represent. And so he will definitely, yeah, he's going to smash this. It'll be really, really great to see. Yeah.
I'm excited. Yeah, I love Bond, and yeah, I grew up reading the books too. Right, my dad gave me the books of James Bond, and then I grew up watching the movies, and first with Sean Connery, and then with Pierce Bronson, and so I'm super excited to see the vision of Denis Villeneuve for James Bond and who they end up picking as well.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
going to be another big hot topic, and we're going to be sure to cover that when the time does come. But we're going to wrap up here. And I mean, this is something new that we've been kind of trying, this hot topic thing. So let us know in the comments if you like this, if there's any topics that you want us to cover. Is there anything else that's trending, anything else that's lighting up your group chat that we haven't talked about? We would love to hear from you. So feel free to keep the conversation going. And we will look forward to seeing you at our next episode where we will pick up the hot topic theme.
Before you go, don't forget to subscribe, leave us a review, and follow us on Instagram at culture_alchemy. We want to keep the conversation going.
That's right. Until next time, Alchemist,
Stay
stay curious.
curious.